Hello everybody, it was a beautiful day, it's now raining and all of my lambs are hiding from it behind the camera. Today I wanted, for only the second time ever, to attempt to do a video without a script, talking about where we are with the channel and where we go from here. To start with, thank you very much for 20,000 subscribers. I was a bit worried we weren't going to hit that milestone this year, which would have been a shame because we got to 10,000 last year starting from zero. So thank you to everybody who has recently joined us. It's a pleasure to have you on board, and I think that's quite a nice end to what has been an absolutely crazy year. So much stuff has happened. We started out with a pretty small YouTube channel about agrarian political history, but because of all the stuff that's been going on in the news at the minute, from that I went on the BBC in January to talk about the inheritance tax, and then we ran another protest in Westminster where 1,400 tractors went, which we didn't think to get measured by Guinness World Records. But if the number given to us by the police is to be believed, it was on par with the biggest collection of tractors ever and was done right in the middle of London. So that was very exciting. I've been on Sky, GB News, spoke at the Oxford Farming Conference. I've given talks to loads of trade conferences and stuff. And then more recently have started going around the country visiting people on farms looking at what they are doing, which is an absolute privilege. It's so cool to be able to go to a new place and be shown around by somebody who actually lives there and knows it very well. So it has been incredibly fun, and every time I've been anywhere I've learned an awful lot from the people that I've met. And in doing so I learn more about my audience, because I'm just sitting in a shed on my farm talking to a camera at the minute, and it can be difficult to know who I'm speaking to. But when I went to the World Transformed, the sort of radical left-wing festival the other week, I got recognised twice. So there are people in that world who know who I am. But then there's also, I've learned, people very high up in the Treasury who watch these videos, on top of all of the people I would expect, like farmers and such. And that is in itself wonderful, because there is such a wide variety of people whose attention I can direct on any given week to whatever issue I fancy. And I can read the comments or go on the channel Discord and get some pretty high-level discussion and learn from you guys about the stuff that I'm interested in. So I feel in many ways the channel has already done what I wanted it to do, which is to bridge a gap between farmers and the rest of the world. Or at least it's shown that that can be done. This is somewhere that I think that happens. And I think that in meeting these people, you learn that actually, although we might on the face of it be very different, we do have similar interests. When I went on GB News in February, there were people writing in the comments that I should be the agriculture minister when Reform win the next election, which I take as a compliment. But I didn't think what I was saying was necessarily in line with what Reform would believe. And the stuff that I was actually saying was a defence of left-wing policies from the 20th century that's about worker ownership of farms, which you can quite easily marry to environmental concerns, fighting climate change, stuff like that, which is then what the people at the World Transformed, the Left Wing Festival, are interested in. There are also some weaknesses of the channel, which I think are mostly a product of just how I've decided to run it. I've been quite methodological with it. I sort of talked through history and then the organic movement, and now we're going through regenerative farming, and in the future we'll talk more about veganism and nature and that sort of thing. But that means that it's not always very clickbaity, and sometimes videos that I do that I think are really important don't get very many views. So a video that I thought was very important was the one on Maurice Glasman a few weeks ago. He's somebody who has some pretty concerning beliefs, but seems to more or less control the direction of Starmer's government. I think his faction are bullying the Prime Minister, and I became aware of this because I try to stay within my lane on this channel and look at the world through farming, and I became very aware of these other protest groups that emerge. So you start looking into who they are, who funds them, what they're doing, this sort of stuff, and you learn things that are relevant more broadly about the influence of this style of politics that's being pushed. But I think a lot of people miss that, particularly on the left, as it were, because things shift one way or the other as different parties win elections and the Overton window moves, and there's also a tribalism with it. I think if a Conservative government was doing a lot of what Labour are doing now, the left would be going crazy about it. But because they have a red rosette, they're our guys, they're all right. I think looking at these issues through farming, through one single lens, is quite good because it grounds you. To me, that work that I did on Maurice Glasman, which took me about a week, was enormously important. But it didn't get very many views, and therefore didn't get very much money. I earned about £20 from it, which is fine. I'm not doing this for the money. I knew what I was signing up to when I started all of this. But you can contrast the video on Glasman with the video I did the following week, which was on Tramps. It was quite a lazy one, I thought. I just wrote a half-assed script and slapped some images over the top, and that's probably going to get over 300,000 views, which has paid. So I feel that there is an avenue I could pursue here where I become a YouTuber, but it was never really about that. I'm not interested in attention for myself. I don't want to be an influencer. The reason I started making YouTube videos primarily is because I thought it was accessible. It's much easier to show people rather than tell them, and I've had to learn how to do it all. And doing a video every week is quite draining. It's not so much that I'm burnt out. I'm a British male, so the only emotions I know how to feel are disdain and rage. But because these videos have a deadline on Sunday every week, I will stay up all night to get one done. But I'm trying to spin lots of other plates as well. Some of them are public, some of them aren't, like the protests, for example. And protests too, they have a deadline, so you'll work on that, you'll work on the videos, and then nothing else gets done, which is a little bit of a problem. And then once you've done the video, you have to immediately start the next one. You don't have time to stop and think and actually improve stuff. So in order to make some headway on some of the other projects I'm working on, I think I'm going to drop the amount of videos I do down to one every 2 weeks. I don't think this will necessarily impact the progression of the channel narratively, because in looking at regenerative farming, for example, I don't discuss that every week. It's every sort of 2 or 3. So we'll still have the movements. I've done lots of visits recently, and I have many more coming up. We've been to Ireland recently to talk about soil structure, which was really interesting. That will probably be the next video. There is, of course, a chance that reducing output will affect channel growth or revenue, but I don't really get much revenue anyway. And I think it would be better if I could focus over winter on other stuff that might generate revenue in the long term, because at the minute I just lose money. But I will add here my sincere gratitude to everyone who has supported me on Buy Me a Coffee. I think I probably earn more money through donations than I do from YouTube ad revenue, so that's very much appreciated and does very directly help what I do. And thank you also to those of you who have subscribed to Scribehound through me. This is a sort of publishing platform that I write for, which is something I got through this channel really, but in a typical month I earn more from Scribehound than I do from my YouTube, and it is a tiny fraction of the work. But I also think that if I can reduce the amount of videos I do slightly, I will have space to stand back and think about how they look, how they're put together, how I film them, that sort of stuff, because I think they could be improved. And when I meet people, they're always very polite about the standard of production, and I do put a lot of effort in, but I think there are things that could be done to make them even better. And I'd like to take the time to do that, which I think in the long run will help. I would also like to get better on camera. And everyone, again, always says that I'm very good on camera, but I'm really not. And I think every single time I've ever interviewed anyone, they're much more relaxed than I am. I'm sort of weirdly tetchy about it, which is a mental block. I'm sure this video will be completely full of cuts. But I've always admired those people you see on YouTube who just sort of sit in front of a camera. Maybe they have a teleprompter, but they just seem to talk fluidly for about 30 minutes without any jump cuts, which is something I would love to be able to do, and we'll work on that. But I think if I just do a video a fortnight, I will be able to do that. Perhaps that won't be forever. I have one big project that I'm working on, and hopefully will finish over winter, that I'm very excited to share with you. It's a secret at the minute. And it's continuing what I'm trying to do on the channel. And of course, there is so much stuff that needs to be covered and discussed in the way that we have been doing. So this is very much not the end of the channel. It's just a slight recalibration of my efforts in the medium term. So I am sorry for the slightly lazy video this week, but do come back next time, because we're going to go to Ireland and talk about humic acid with a soil scientist, which sounds a bit boring and technical, but it might just solve agriculture if it is to be believed. Maybe like the Glasman video, that is something that's very important but not very clickbaity, so it might struggle to sell, but I'll try and get a good thumbnail. But I'm trailing it now because I learned loads from that visit. It was a really good one. Don't miss it. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.